If you could see the hidden architecture of reality, if for one moment the veil was pulled back and you could see the actual structure through which God interacts with creation, what would you see? You would see a tree. Not a tree made of wood and leaves, a tree made of light. 10 spheres of divine energy arranged in a precise pattern, connected by 22 pathways, organized into 3 columns, flowing from the highest conceivable point all the way down into the physical world you are sitting in right now. That tree is called the Etz Heikaim, the Tree of Life, and those 10 spheres are called the Sefirot. They are the most important concept in all of Kabbalah. Everything we have discussed so far, the Ein Sof, Zimzum, the Kaf, was building toward this. This is what the Kaf builds when it enters the void. This is the structure through which the infinite becomes knowable, relatable, and present in your life. Welcome back. My name is William. This is part 4 of the Foundations of Kabbalah series, and this one is going to be longer than the others because there is a lot to cover. I'm going to walk you through all the 10 Sefirot, show you how they are arranged, explain the 3 pillars, and show you how divine energy flows through this system from the top to the bottom. By the end of this video, you will have a map, a real working map of the inner structure of reality. And once you have this map, everything else in Kabbalah, every Zohar passage, every teaching, every concept will start to click into place. Let's begin. So, what are the Sefirot? The word Sefirot is plural. The singular is Sephirah. And the word itself is fascinating because it contains multiple layers of meaning, which is exactly what you would expect from a Kabbalistic term. The root of Sephirah is connected to at least 3 Hebrew words. The first is sapir, meaning sapphire, a luminous, radiant gemstone. This connects the Sefirot to the idea of light, of brilliance, of divine radiance, shining through a crystalline structure. The second is Sefer, meaning book or text, suggesting that the Sefirot are modes of divine communication, ways in which God speaks reality into being. And the third is Mispar, meaning number, because the Sefirot represent the fundamental numerical structure of creation. There are exactly 10, not 9, not 11, 10. The Sefer Yetzirah, one of the oldest Kabbalistic texts, possibly dating back to the time of Abraham, opens with this statement: with 32 wondrous paths of wisdom, God engraved and created his world. This consists of 10 Sefirot of nothingness and 22 foundation letters. So the Sefirot are described as the 10 primary channels through which God structured creation, combined with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which form the pathways between them. But let me say this as simply as I can, because the textual references can get complex, and I want you to hold on to the essence. The Sefirot are 10 qualities, 10 attributes, 10 dimensions of divine energy through which Ein Sof, the infinite that we discussed 2 videos ago, expresses itself in the world. Remember, we said that Ein Sof is unknowable, no thought can grasp. It is beyond all categories, beyond all description. And yet, here we are, in a world with experiences, with relationships, with beauty and justice and love and structure. How does the unknowable become experience? Through the Sefirot. They are like prisms. The white light of Ein Sof enters, and what comes out the other side is a spectrum of colors. Each color a distinct quality of the divine: love, judgment, harmony, endurance, splendor, foundation, sovereignty. These are not metaphors. In the Kabbalistic understanding, these are the actual operating system of reality. And here is something the Zohar is very careful to emphasize. The Sefirot are not God. They are not separate beings or entities. They are emanations of God, extensions, expressions, modes through which the one manifests as the many, the way a single human being can express themselves through different emotions without becoming a different person. You are still you, whether you are loving or angry, gentle or firm. The Sefirot are how the one God expresses different qualities without ceasing to be one. Now, before I walk you through the 10 Sefirot individually, I need to give you the structure they are arranged in, because they are not just a random list of 10 things. They are organized into a very specific pattern. A tree with 3 vertical columns called pillars. And the arrangement of these pillars tells you something profound about the nature of reality. The right pillar is called the pillar of Chesed, or the pillar of mercy. It represents expansion, giving, flowing, opening, saying yes. The energy on the right side is generous, unbounded, overflowing. It wants to give without limit. If reality were only the right pillar, everything would expand forever with no structure, no form, no boundary. It would be beautiful, but formless, like water with no cup. The left pillar is called the pillar of Gevurah, or the pillar of Severity. It represents contraction, restraint, boundary, discipline, saying no. The energy on the left side is restrictive, structuring, containing. It sets limits. It creates form. It says this far and no further. If reality were only the left pillar, everything would be rigid, confined, lifeless. Perfect structure with no flow, like a cup with no water. And the middle pillar is called pillar of Tiferet, or the pillar of balance. It represents the synthesis between the two, the harmony between expansion and restraint, mercy and judgment, giving and containing. The middle pillar is where the opposites are reconciled, where water and cup come together and you actually have something you can drink from. Now here is the key insight. This three-pillar structure is not just a map of the divine. It is a map of everything. It appears at every scale of reality. In your body, right arm gives, left arm restrains. The torso holds both in balance. In your personality, you have impulses toward generosity and impulses toward discipline. And wisdom is knowing when to apply which. In relationships, one partner may lean toward openness, the other toward structure, and the health of the relationship depends on the balance between them. In society, freedom on one side, law on the other, justice in the middle. The Sefirot are not just describing God. They are describing the pattern that God wove into every layer of creation. Learn the Sefirot and you have a key that unlocks everything. So now, let's walk through them, top to bottom, the way the light flows. At the very top of the tree, above and beyond the three pillars, sits the first Sephirah. It's called Keter. And Keter means crown. Why crown? Because a crown sits above the head. It is not part of the body. It is not part of the mind. It is above all of that. Keter is the point of contact between the infinite and the finite. It is where Ein Sof touches the system of the Sefirot. It is the will before the will, the deepest, most primal, most unknowable intention of the divine. We cannot see Keter directly. You cannot think about Keter because Keter is prior to thought. It is the origin point, the crown above everything, the root from which the entire tree grows downward. If you've ever had a moment of absolute clarity, not a thought, not an idea, but a flash of pure knowing that comes from beyond your mind, that is a taste of Keter. It is what you know before you know it. The impulse before the thought, the will before the reason. From Keter, two Sefirot emerge simultaneously, one on the right, one on the left. These are Chokhmah and Binah. And together with Keter, they form what the Kabbalists call the supernal triad, the upper triangle of the tree. Chokhmah sits on the right pillar. Chokhmah means wisdom. But this is not wisdom in the way we normally use the word. This is not accumulated knowledge or good judgment. Chokhmah is the flash of insight, the seed, the initial spark of an idea before it has any form or structure. It is the point, literally. The Kabbalists associate Chokhmah with the dimensionless point, the first something emerging from nothing. You know that moment when you're working on a problem and suddenly the answer appears in your mind. Whole, complete, but not yet articulated. You cannot explain it yet. You cannot put it in words yet, but you know that flash, that instantaneous download of understanding before the mind has time to process it. That is Chokhmah. It is the father principle in Kabbalah, the seed that contains the potential of everything, but has not yet unfolded into anything. Binah sits on the left pillar, directly across from Chokhmah. Binah means understanding, and if Chokhmah is the flesh, Binah is the processing. If Chokhmah is the seed, Binah is the womb. If Chokhmah is the point, Binah is the expansion of that point into dimensions, into structure, into form. Binah takes the raw, undifferentiated flesh of Chokhmah and unfolds it. It asks, what does this mean? What are the implications? How does this connect to everything else? Binah is the mother principle. It receives the seed of insight and develops it, nurtures it, gives it shape, gives it a body. Without Chokhmah, Binah has nothing to develop. Without Binah, Chokhmah's flesh vanishes before it can become anything. They need each other. The Zohar uses deeply intimate language to describe this relationship. It calls Chokhmah Abba, which means father, and calls Binah Ima, which means mother. And from their union, from the seed of the father entering the womb of the mother, all of the lower Sefirot are born. The entire lower tree is the offspring of Chokhmah and Binah. So the supernal triad, Keter above, the unknowable crown, the will before will, Chokhmah on the right, the flash of wisdom, the seed, the father, Binah on the left, the understanding that unfolds the flesh, the womb, the mother. These three are the highest, most abstract, most transcendent Sefirot. Most of your daily experience happens in the lower seven, but these three are the source from which everything below flows. Below the supernal triad, the tree opens into 6 Sefirot that the Kabbalists collectively called the Midot, which means the measures or the emotional attributes. These 6 are grouped together because they represent the qualities of God that are most directly reflected in human emotion and character. When you work on yourself spiritually, when you refine your personality, your relationships, your moral life, you are working in the territory of these 6 Sefirot. The Zohar and the Arizal group these 6 together and give them a collective name, which is Zeir Anpin. This Aramaic term means the small face or the short-tempered countenance, and it refers to the aspect of God that is turned toward creation, engaged in the dynamic interplay of giving and receiving, expansion and contraction. Zeir Anpin is, in a sense, the persona of God that we can actually relate to. The first of the six is Chesed. Chesed sits on the right pillar, directly below Chokhmah. And Chesed means lovingkindness. It is the pure desire to give, to overflow, to share, to embrace. Chesed is love without condition. It is the impulse that says, I will give to you simply because you exist, not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, because giving is my nature. When you feel spontaneous love for a stranger, when you give without expecting anything in return, when your heart opens for no strategic reason, that is Chesed flowing through you. It is the divine quality of unconditional generosity, and because it's on the right pillar, it's expansive. Chesed wants to give infinitely, without limit, without boundary, which is beautiful, but also potentially dangerous, because giving without discernment can be destructive. A parent who gives a child everything they want without ever saying no is not loving that child. They are indulging them. Chesed without Gevurah produces chaos. Which brings us to Gevurah. Gevurah sits on the left pillar, directly across from Chesed. Gevurah means strength or severity or judgment. It is the power to restrain, to limit, to say no. It is the boundary that gives form to the flow of Chesed. Gevurah is the divine quality of discipline, of justice, of holding a line. When you set a boundary with someone who is taking advantage of you, that is Gevurah. When a court delivers a just sentence, that is Gevurah. When you deny yourself something you want because you know it isn't good for you, that is Gevurah. It's not cruelty. It is love expressed through restraint. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. But Gevurah without Chesed becomes tyranny. Pure judgment without mercy is harsh, cold, crushing. The balance between Chesed and Gevurah is the central tension of the entire Sefirot system, and that balance is held by the next Sefirah, Tiferet. Tiferet sits on the middle pillar, directly below Keter. Tiferet means beauty or harmony or compassion. It is the synthesis of Chesed and Gevurah, the point where love and discipline meet and produce something greater than either one alone. Tiferet is often described as compassion because compassion is exactly this synthesis. Compassion is not the same as mercy. Mercy says, I will forgive you regardless. Compassion says, I see you fully, your strengths and your weaknesses, your potential and your failures, and I respond with exactly what you need. Sometimes what you need is gentleness. Sometimes what you need is firmness. Compassion knows which one and when. In the Zohar, Tiferet is associated with the written name of God, the Tetragrammaton, Yud K Vav K. It is considered the heart of the tree, the center, the place where above and below, right and left, giving and receiving, all converge. Tiferet is the most balanced point in the entire system. And in the human body, the Kabbalists map Tiferet to the torso, the trunk, the center, the heart. Below Chesed and Gevurah, the pattern repeats at a more practical level with two more Sefirot. Netzach on the right, Hod on the left. Netzach means victory or endurance or eternity. It is on the right pillar, so it carries the expansive quality. But where Chesed is the emotion of love, Netzach is the drive to persist. It is the force that keeps going, the stamina to see something through the end, the ambition, the desire to overcome obstacles and win. When you refuse to give up, when you push through exhaustion because the mission matters, when you feel that fire of determination, that is Netzach. Hod means splendor or acknowledgement or humility. It sits on the left pillar, opposite Netzach. And where Netzach drives forward with force, Hod pulls back with grace. Hod is the ability to yield, to surrender, to acknowledge that you are not the source of your own power. Hod is the humility to say, this is not about me. It is gratitude, acknowledgement, the willingness to let go of your ego and let something greater work through you. Netzach and Hod are like the two legs of the tree. Netzach is the right leg, pushing toward. Hod is the left leg, absorbing, yielding. Together, they create the ability to walk, to advance through life with both drive and humility, both ambition and surrender. And then, below Tiferet, below Netzach and Hod, gathering everything above it into a single channel is Yesod. Yesod sits on the middle pillar. Yesod means foundation. Yesod is the funnel. It is the point where all the energy of the upper Sefirot, the love, the judgment, the harmony, the endurance, the humility, is collected and concentrated into a single stream before it is transmitted downward into the final Sefirah. Yesod is the connector, the bridge, the channel through which everything above reaches everything below. In the Zohar, Yesod is associated with the Tzaddik, the righteous one. This is a deeply significant association. The Tzaddik in Kabbalistic thought is not simply a good person. The Tzaddik is the one who serves as a channel between the upper worlds and the lower world. The one through whom divine energy flows into the manifest. The Zohar says, the Tzaddik is the foundation of the world. Yesod is Tzaddik. The righteous one is the foundation. Without this channel, the blessings of the upper Sefirot have no way to reach the world below. And the quality that makes Yesod function, the quality that allows the Tzaddik to be a clear channel, is covenant, faithfulness, integrity, the commitment to transmit truthfully without distorting what passes through. Yesod is the Sefirah of trust, of bonding, of sacred commitment. And finally, At the very bottom of the tree, receiving everything from above, is Malkhut. Malkhut means kingdom or sovereignty, and it is the 10th and final Sefirah. Malkhut is different from all the others. Every Sefirah above it is a giver in some sense. Each one transmits something downward. Malkhut has nothing of its own to give. It only receives. It is the ultimate vessel, the cup that holds all the water that has flowed down from above. And yet, Malkhut is in some ways the most important Sefirah of all, because Malkhut is this world. Malkhut is physical reality. Malkhut is your body, your life, the room you are sitting in, the ground under your feet, all of the abstract energy flowing through the upper 9 Sefirot means nothing until it manifests here in Malkhut. This is where it becomes real. This is where theory becomes experience. This is where the infinite becomes tangible. The Zohar has another name for Malkhut that is central to its teaching. It calls Malkhut the Shekhinah, the divine presence, the feminine aspect of God that dwells within creation, that walks with the exiled, that is present in every moment of your life, even the mundane ones. The Shekhinah is the aspect of God that is here, not up there, not in the upper worlds, here in the marketplace, in the kitchen, in the sick room, in the exile. The Zohar teaches that the Shekhinah went into exile with Israel, and that she dwells in the dust, waiting to be raised. That is Malkhut, the divine spark that descended all the way to the bottom, into matter, into flesh, into the physical world, and awaits recognition, elevation, and reunion with the upper Sefirot. And this is where Tikkun, the great work of repair that we will discuss in a later video, takes place. Tikkun is essentially the work of reconnecting Malkhut to the tree above her, of lifting the Shekhinah from the dust, of reuniting the divine presence in this world with its source in the infinite. Every prayer, every act of kindness, every moment of genuine spiritual practice is an act of lifting Malkhut. So let me paint the complete picture for you, top to bottom, so you can hold the whole tree in your mind. At the very top, the crown, Keter, the unknowable will. Then Chokhmah on the right, the flash of wisdom, the Father. Binah on the left, understanding, the Mother. From their union, the emotive Sefirot emerge. Chesed on the right, lovingkindness. Gevurah on the left, strength and judgment. Tiferet in the center, beauty and compassion. Netzach on the right, endurance and victory. Hod on the left, splendor and humility. Yesod in the center, the foundation, the channel of the Tzaddik. And at the bottom, Malkhut, the kingdom, the Shekhinah, this world, receiving everything from above. 10 Sefirot, 3 pillars, 1 tree, the blueprint of all reality. Now you might be asking, how does energy actually move through this system? Is it just a static diagram, or is something happening? Something is very much happening. The Sefirot are not a still image. They are a living, breathing, flowing system. Energy moves through them constantly, and the direction of that flow is what produces everything you experience. The primary flow is downward, from Keter through the tree all the way to Malkhut. This is the flow of divine blessing, of Sheva, of the sustaining energy that keeps creation in existence, moment to moment. If this flow stopped, the world would cease. It is the kaf from our Zimzum video, continuing to operate, continuing to feed the system. But there is also an upward flow, and this is where you come in. Every prayer, every act of devotion, every sincere spiritual effort sends energy upward through the tree. From Malkhut, where you are, back up through Yesod, through Tiferet, through the supernal triad, all the way toward Ein Sof. This ascending flow is called Or Choser, which is returning light, and it is just as important as the descending flow, because without the returning light, the system is incomplete. God gives downward, we give upward, and the circulation between the two is what keeps all of reality alive. The Zohar describes the flow through the three pillars using a beautiful image. It says the right pillar flows like water, fluid, generous, moving outward. The left pillar burns like fire, intense, consuming, drawing inward, and the middle pillar moves like wind, like breath, like spirit, ruach, mediating between the two, carrying one toward the other, balancing the flow. Water, fire, and wind, Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet. Expansion, contraction, and harmony. This is the pulse of the tree. This is the heartbeat of creation, and it is mirrored in your own experience every single day. Every time you feel the tension between wanting to give and needing to set a boundary, between opening your heart and protecting it, between flowing and holding firm, you are experiencing the dynamic interplay of the three pillars within your soul. Because here is the secret the Zohar keeps returning to. The tree is not just out there. It is in you. You are the tree of life. Your soul contains all 10 Sefirot, and the work of a lifetime is to bring those Sefirot into alignment, into balance, into their proper flow. That is the tree of life, the 10 Sefirot, the blueprint of everything. Now, I want to be honest with you. This was an overview. We moved through all 10 Sefirot in a single video, and each one of them contains oceans of depth that we barely touch today. In the next two videos, we are going to go much deeper. In the next video, part 5, we'll spend the full time on just the supernal triad, Keter, Chokhmah, and Binah, and unpack the mysteries that the Zohar hides within them. And in part 6, we'll go deep on Chesed through Yesod, the 6 emotive Sefirot, and what they mean for your daily spiritual practice. But for now, you have the map, you have the full tree, you know the 10 names, the 3 pillars, the direction of flow, and that is an enormous amount to have in your hands. So here is what I want you to do with it. This week, just notice. Notice the moments in your life where you feel the pull of Chesed, the desire to give, to open, to flow outward. Notice the moments where Gevurah arises, the need for a boundary, a limit, a firm no. Notice the moments where something inside you seeks the middle path, the balance, the Tiferet. You don't have to do anything with it yet, just notice. Because awareness is the beginning of alignment. And alignment is the beginning of tikkun. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with anyone who's trying to understand Kabbalah from the ground up. And I will see you in the next video where we go deep into the upper 3 Sefirot. Thank you for being here. This tree is ancient and it's alive and it's growing in you right now, whether you know it or not. Now you know.